is to be led by our maestro, Joseph Boyer, and the band by Greg Stevens.
It's under the specialty section.
That's right, and some people may have it and some people may not.
Oh. Well, there you have it.
That's why it's special.
That's the way it is with music. Some people got it, some people don't. You know what I mean?
Love potion number 9.
Yeah, this is in respect to Valentine's Day.
Exactly.
Next Thursday.
Let's see how this one works.
It don't work. Some have it, some don't, and if you don't have it, just kind of hum along, you'll be fine. I took my troubles down to Malibu. You know that gypsy with a gold tattoo. She got a pad down on 34th and Vine, selling little bottles of love potion number 9. Yeah! Well, I told her that I'm gonna flop with chicks. I knew them when it's 1956. She looked down her palm and she made a magic sign. Said, what we need is love potion number 9. Okay, here we go. Well, she bent down and turned around and gave me a wink. She said, I'm gonna make it up right here in the sink. Then I took it down and looked like Indian ink. I held my nose, I closed my eyes, I took a drink. I didn't know if it was day or night. I started kissing everything inside. But when I kissed the cop down on 34th and Vine, he put my little bottle of love potion number 9. Love potion number 9. Love potion number 9. This guy here, I'm tickled to death to introduce him. He came and spoke to us once before when KGY radio was afraid of going off the air. He didn't really know what was going on with KGY at that time. And he still doesn't know what's going on with KGY. He was named Washington State Association Broadcaster of the Year. That is a designation that's usually given to big TV anchormen, news anchormen and stuff like that, or news programming type people. He is one of the few radio guys I know that's ever received that. Honored nationally in New Orleans by the National Association Broadcasters as one of the 5 nominees for the prestigious Marconi Award, Medium Market Personality of the Year. We're a medium market. Wow. Inducted into the Olympia High School Hall of Fame, St. Martin's College, now University, Distinguished Alumni, and he has many other awards and honors too numerous to mention. He's got a room full of plaques, I'm sure. I got one of those, a lot of plaques, you know. But I'm tickled to death to have him here with us today. Give a big, warm Hawks Prairie Rotary welcome to my radio guy who's on Mix 96 Saturdays and Sundays in the mornings, Dick Pust.
Proud to be on the same team with Greg, and it's a lot of fun. I gave a speech a few years ago, and for some reason the Olympian sent a reporter to cover it, and it was John Dodge who covered my speech, and then when he wrote the story, he said, Dick's rambling comments. And I thought, well, you know, that's, you know, rambling isn't necessarily a compliment. And then Jodie Foster, if you saw the Golden Globes, got inducted into the Lifetime Achievement Award or something, and her acceptance was described as rambling. So I didn't feel quite so bad because, you know, maybe if Jodie Foster's speech gets described as rambling and mine does too, well, I guess maybe that's sort of okay. Just a little question. How many of you listen to the radio today? Any station? Quite a few hands go up here. How many of you listen to the radio on your computer or iPhone? Yeah, it's more hands than I would expect. 3 or 4 hands. Just kind of curious about that, because a lot of radio stations now say, also, you know, pick us up online and so on and so forth. Well, at the risk of rambling, this will be a rambling talk. I did try to zero it down to a couple of focus points. One, I'd like to entertain you a little bit. Number 2, maybe leave you with a little something to think about as you go home. Just a little something that I began radio way back years ago, before most of you were born, in the Rockway Leland building, where I am right now, where Mix 96 studio is. You walk up the long stairs. I walked up those stairs at the age of 19, and I was just scared to death. I walked in. I had no idea how to apply for a job, and I ran into a guy by the name of Don Jones, who was the program director, and I said, "You have any jobs?" And he says, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "Well, I don't know. What do you got?" And he said, "Well, do you type?" I said, "A little bit." He says, "Okay, you're hired." And I got the job of receptionist for $1 an hour. That's how I started commercially in radio. Well, flash forward 51 years, January 5th, 2011, and I'm still working for the same radio station, 4th set of owners, all in the same family, and I was still doing things kind of like I'd done for the last, well, in this particular case, maybe 47 years in the morning. I'd get up at 2:30 in the morning, and I would go to the police station physically, or the 911 center, and find out what was going on, travel the roads a little bit, and get ready for my show. But you know what? This stuff wasn't really relevant today. You can get all this stuff online. Most police departments, all of them, I think, have public relations departments that send out press releases. You don't really need a reporter there anymore. And so I'd been sort of told, well, or asked, "Dick, you thinking of retiring soon, maybe?" I'd always say, "Well, no, not yet. I'm still having fun." And I think probably left alone, I'd have worked there till I was 90 years old. I'd be, still doing the same thing. So somebody had to put a stop to that. And so on January 5th, 2011,
Somebody put a stop to it.
I was told that my position was no longer needed. So I was walked to my car and I drove away forever. And I haven't been back since. And it was a strange feeling driving away. But in a way it was liberating, because I have a new life and I'm having great fun at Mix 96, and I'm doing other things, and I actually sleep in a little bit in the morning, and it's really kind of fun. So okay, what's in my bag?
Did you ever get your albums back?
Did I ever get my albums back?
Weren't some of those yours?
Yeah, some of them are, I'm afraid, gone. But I have a lot of things. I have hundreds of hours of air checks and other things that I did. And back when I started in radio, when I first got on the air, my first show was back in I think I started in 1960. But I have a little bit of a air check, just a small one, that was done in 1960. Let's see, I wrote it down. It was I'll get it, 1962. This is February 2nd, or February 12th, 1962. I was not a great DJ, so I don't really know how I got all those awards and things. I was just starting out, but still. All right, anybody know what this is? This is an actual cassette recorder. But what you're about to hear is a dub of a dub of a dub. Back in 1962, I don't think they had cassette recorders yet. They were reel-to-reel. And, some of you, you'd have to be shown that to know what it is. But there were new things coming out. And I am advertising something. I want you to know that I'd never seen a tater tot before. Seriously, I didn't know what they were, really. But here we go. This is just a portion of my show.
Joey D and Hey Let's Twist. KGY time is 5 minutes to 9 o'clock. Say, you hungry right now? Then how about going on out to the Flavor Nook, located 3935 Pacific Avenue, for a nice hamburger. You know, the Flavor Nook is the home of the long hamburger. Only at the Flavor Nook can you get this fabulous eating piece of, well, I don't know. Anyway, and you get it. And call the Flavor Nook up in advance and make your order. They'll get it all ready and have it waiting when you drop by to pick it up. Now, that number to call if you want to do it that way is Fleetwood 21121. That's Fleetwood 21121. Now, if you didn't catch that, it's in the phone book, or you can call me and I'd be glad to repeat it for you. Now, the Flavor Nook has made it possible for me to give away a basket of fish and chips. Sound pretty good? This is actually a whole meal in itself, and I could use some right now. It includes lots of fish, and includes tater tots. Now, these are sort of like French fries, only better. They don't get all greasy and smeary and get you all messy when you're done eating. Fish and chips, and the basket includes tartar sauce and also coleslaw. All this for only 65 cents at the store. If you will call Whitehall 3-1240, be the 5th one in, and you will be the winner. This is Kenny Lester.
Nice.
All right. One more thing here. One more little bit. We're going to fast forward and see if anybody would call up for a 65-cent or whatever it is prize. And the next part, there's also a little bit of news in here. And the last time I played this, somebody listening cringed when they heard me say a word that you don't hear a whole lot anymore. So I'm going to fast forward. This is one of those things you have to pay attention to the counter. There's a little counter on the top here. And if I go past that, I've messed up. So, okay, here we go. This is the next part. We'll see, did we get a winner?
First, with the news.
Whoops, wait a minute. Hold it. I went just a little too fast. All right. Apparently this counter is jiggles. When you jiggle it in your car, it goes it goes a little too far, too fast.
Is that you?
Now you got to remember this is an old tape in here, even though this is a dub of a dub of a dub. Don't want to play the whole song, you know, or I won't have time for anything else here. This is definitely rambling.
That was Kenny Lester and Love Letters. KGY time is 1 minute to 9 o'clock. And what's your name, please?
Corky Mullen,
And your address, Corky?
Route 6, Box 204.
All right, Corky, you won a basket of fish and chips from the Flavor Nook. Thanks for calling, Corky.
Okay.
Goodbye now.
Bye.
This is KGY going on 40 on 1240 in Olympia. First with the news.
Here's headline news, front page news to this moment from Olympia's Radio Action News Central, KGY.
Dick Pust in Action News Central. Russia has released Premier Khrushchev's letters to Washington leaders calling for a summit meeting when the disarmament conference opens in Geneva next month. Secretary of State Rusk says he is opposed to any summit meeting at the start of the forthcoming disarmament conference, but does not rule out one later. 7 more plastic bombs have exploded in Paris, apparently sent by French right-wing terrorists. Negroes have started a boycott of city bus service in Macon, Georgia, and report almost 90% effectiveness. This is Dick Pust in Action News Central.
Those are the headlines of news as it happened to this moment, and reported to you instantly from Olympia's...
That's classic.
All right.
Kind of miss those days.
65.
Well, there were a lot of things. And I'll pull out, see what else do I have in here.
That's your bag of tricks.
This is my bag of tricks. I have 3 in here. This is my diary. My grandmother gave this to me, and actually I got it after she died. And when I turned 19, I started doing this. This went with me to basic training in the Army, and somehow I didn't lose it. And I've kept a diary ever since. And I don't know what to do with all this old stuff. I always figured, well, someday I'd do something with it. So right now I'm going through the task of reading them. And I'm up to 1967 right now. And it's really difficult to, it takes longer almost to read it than it did to live it. But there are some things that have changed in the last few years. For example, when I started at KGY, I think I told you I was the receptionist. And one day I kind of looked around and I didn't see any women working on the staff. There were none at all. So I asked Don Jones, I said, Don, how come there aren't any women there? And how come I'm the receptionist? You know, because receptionists were always women. He said, well, he says, we found out over years and beyond that, there would be never any women on the radio on the air because women don't have deep voices. Whoa, okay, so now you know.
I think Marty would have shot something like that.
Excuse me,
Stabbing people.
nothing like a drippy nose when you're trying to, is glad this isn't TV. That's why I never got into TV. All right, the year is 1967 now in my diary. And I've just started the morning show. I started the morning show in about April of 1967. And one of my duties, I'd get up at 2:30, 3 o'clock every morning. And one of my duties was to get the news together in the morning. And I made personal rounds of the police station, the Olympia police station, every morning. And went through what they called, I don't know if they still have something called the rollover or not. But that's where they logged everything in, and then they did reports. The police officers did reports by paper, and it all gets shoved into a bin. Well, I walked into the police station every morning. Sometimes there'd be police officers there, sometimes not. But the door was unlocked. I could walk in. I could walk into every officer's room. I could go through all the papers, which I did. Sometimes I was alone in the building and I'd write down everything. And it was okay. That's the way it was done back then. I mean, it was a smaller town and you didn't have all this security stuff you had to go through. And you didn't have to ask anybody. If I wanted to find out what was going on, I'd just talk to the officer on the beat and find out what it is, and I'd report it on the air. I reported every fender bender. If you backed into a car at Safeway, that'd be news. Even if there was $50 damage, I'd have your name, address, how you did it, it'd be on the news. I remember writing a story about somebody breaking into a house and taking a sandwich out of the refrigerator. It was news. It got on the air. And it was fun. I loved doing that. I never wanted to quit. So that was, I don't think that would be the case today, even though right up to the day my last day at KGY, I was still going into the police station, but I wasn't allowed to go through everything like it is today. But I went into the 911 center. I was the only one who did that. And there are, I think, 4 locked doors that you had to go through to get there. There are a lot of security. But I'd very often be there when something happened, and I'd watched and see who was dispatching what to whom. And many times on my way to work in the morning, I'd see flashing lights somewhere, and so instead of going to the police station or 911 center, I'd go to the source of the news. And lots of times I was right there when the fire happened or the accident happened or whatever. And that's the way I did it.
Donate a few bucks while you're here. The Hawks Prairie Rotary Foundation will make sure your investment goes to help military folks that need it. Again, thanks for coming today.
Anyway, I turned that off, all right? Because this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. 40 bucks, and I can Bluetooth any signal that I can download off my computer onto my phone so I can play commercials for clients as things sit right in my briefcase. Don't have to haul around a big old boom box anymore. But let me tell you a little bit about me. This is a classification talk, and that's a tape that I put together with Charlie Daniels in 2007, believe that or not. We rented it the 2008 Military Family Support March. It was a March. And in case you all don't know about me, I want to tell you about me real quick. Born at a very early age on a farm in Denver, Missouri. That's right. I was born on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, June the 21st, 1951.
Before Colorado was a state.
Yeah. And I was destined to become an entertainer. My mom said I could sing before I could talk. So most of my business life, my dad moved to to Wichita because he heard Boeing was paying $2 an hour, and that's more money than he'd ever heard of in the early 50s. So he went down there and went to work, and he worked for him for 37 years. Most of my business life, I worked in retail in the advertising business. I traveled with a country band, about 200 dates a year for about 30 years, called the Wichita Linemen, working out of the Midwest. I had always told my wife, who was a groupie of the band, used to follow me around all the time.
We'll check that out.
But we always told her, so we do it 25 years my way, and then we do it 25 years your way. Well, her way, after 25 years of wedded bliss in 1999, you guys do the math, didn't include staying in Wichita, Kansas. She wanted to go somewhere where there's some mountains and some trees, and here we are, and we were very fortunate to have all three of our kids, Amanda, who's a relationship banker with KeyBank, Buddy, who's employed by Fourth Dimension Computers, and Samantha Finnisgard, who's a registered nurse. They all live and work here in Olympia. She married, my youngest married Mitch, and then we now have a grandson named Dylan, who had a successful, his third and final heart operation, and he's just really going to town. Richard Bukowski said he saw him here the other day. Thank you very much for that. He is just going and blowing, so I'm glad that he's here. Again, I've worked in the advertising business for 20 years before I got here. I've been with Mix 96 now for, it'll be 13 years, October the 1st. I am the, let me tell you just a few of my accomplishments, all right? I served on the board of directors of the Salvation Army, the YMCA, the Rotary Club of Hawks Prairie, and the Olympia Master Builders Association. The Builders Association, I was the Associates Council Vice President and Chair of the Big Home and Garden Show for several years. I was also named Associate of the Year with the Master Builders for 2 years running. I have received the Service Above Self Award from Rotary as Volunteer of the Week Award, thanks to Andrew Oskowitz with the Volunteer Center. I am currently co-chair of Business Showcase for the Thurston County Chamber of Commerce, where I also serve as an ambassador, but I was also on the board of trustees for that organization. And you can see me perform on my hot pink guitar around town at different places. I played at the Royal Lounge here with a blues band here the other night, so I still get out and perform. As well, I played at Evergreen Christian Community on Sundays, just about every Sunday for over 10 years. So I'm not doing that anymore. But I believe radio is the most powerful form of media yet today because it triggers people's emotions. And I work for Mix 96, which is the largest coverage FM station on the West Coast. So with that, that's my classification talk. Do I get an award or anything?
No, you owe us time.
I owe you what?
Time.
I owe you time.
Yes, classification is 1 minute.
Did I go over that?
I think so.
Okay. Well, I am a technology geek, and I think this is a wonderful thing.
Shucks, that's good.
Howdy YouTube, and welcome Thurston County. Today we are cooking up. Today, the spice star of the show is going to be Tango Spice Tango Verde. We're going to be cooking up some bacon and some broccoli and some mushrooms and maybe even a tater or two. But the star of the barbecue today is going to be our rack of pork. And I'm going to cut a couple of these off just to make it more uniform in size. It's a little bit wide for my barbecue. So we've rinsed this rinsed and patted dry several times actually. And I'm just going to take these two ribs off. Nice pork chop going on there. It's trying to... Is that frozen still? Trying to... Oh, it's a piece of bone. And it is frozen still. Yeah, still got some ice in there. Not quite even, but they're even enough that I can cook them together. So we got 2 pork chops. And we still got a rack of pork. We're going to start to salt this, and then we're going to cover it with, we're going to let it sit. We're going to salt it, we're going to let it sit for 30 minutes, and then we're going to cover it with some garlic powder and some Tango Verde in our search for a northwest sunrise or sunset. In our search for a northwest sunset. And that's going to be our show today. cut. One more time. Hi Diego, howdy YouTube. Welcome to our show today. We are cooking up a rack of pork. We cut off a couple of chops and the rest of it's just going to be this rack of pork. We're going to cook it low and slow on the barbecue with some cherry wood. What we're putting on here now is some pink Himalayan salt. Most people agree it's the best salt to use for cooking barbecue. Alright, now let's let that set for 30 minutes as it draws the moisture out and puts the salt flavor in, and then we'll be back on it with some powder. Alright, it's been that 20-30 minute mark. Salt's starting to exchange between the salt and the moisture of the meat, which means it's time to start coating it with garlic powder. Oh, well, almost forgot. We want to hit it with that Tango Verde first. Make sure that gets in against all the skin. Then we'll coat it with that garlic, onion, and chili powder combo that I so much like to use. This the cute little tongs are going to work. It's not by themselves. Guess I'll have to try to edit that one out. Alright, here we go. We got it all. It's seasoned. It's got seasoning on the top, the bottom, the sides. It's already got salt. Salt's absorbed into the meat. And now we're going to coat it with our garlic flavoring. Garlic and onion powder, that is, with a bit of chili powder. And since I'm almost done, I'm going to use my trusty hand. Alright, we're just going to let that sit for a few minutes, and then we're going to take it out to the grill, finish her off.